Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror film and they discuss it. Today we are talking about 1982's Basketcase, which was directed by Frank Henenlotter. I'm your co-host Alec.
I'm Eric, and with us again is Corinne DeCost. Corinne, welcome back to the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Corinne, thank you so much. The last time you were on was Black Christmas, right?
It was maybe a year ago, something like that.
Yeah, I feel like it was like right around last Christmas time, probably. Like it was definitely in the winter. I think it was in Connecticut actually when we recorded it. Another old, low-budget horror film, so this is kind of a trend with you, it looks like.
Yeah, I guess that's my specialty. I mean, I really do love terrible cinema. Movies that are kind of so bad that they're good. There was this Tribeca art house doc featuring David Schmader that coined masterpiece of shit. Something that's both a masterpiece and a piece of shit at the same time. And, you know, Black Christmas is that, and I think the one we're jumping into today is that as well.
Yes, this one was very interesting, and you specifically asked to do this one, and I had heard of it, but I had never seen it. And Eric, I'm assuming, had you even heard of this movie?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Well, I mean, all right, so I guess, Corinne, before we jump into the movie, what is, like, your experience with it? Like, when did you see it?
Yeah, my partner and I have this scratch-off list of, like, 100 horror movies that my best friend gave us, and we've been working our way through it together, and Basketcase just happened to be on there. I had never heard of it before, and I'm a connoisseur of bad movies. I also love horror movies, so I was down to watch it because I had never heard it before. And I watched it. I loved it because I love bad movies. Like I said, I've met Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, wow.
He stopped his meet and greet line to bless me in the name of the Father, the Son, and the rest of them.
Oh, my God.
So I definitely think that I have like a little bit of bad cinema in my blood, and it really spoke to me. And then I've recommended it to dozens of people since I first saw it. And if I ever mention it and somebody knows what I'm talking about, there's this like unmitigated glee behind their eyes.
Yeah.
And so I love talking about this movie with people.
I love that. I love that when you say something obscure and all of a sudden you have a connection with somebody. That happened to me one time because I have a Twin Peaks keychain. And all of a sudden, I saw a pair of keys on the ground. I was in Staples, and I was like, oh, my God, it's my keys. So I picked it up, and then I went in my pocket. I was like, wait, I have my keys. And I saw it was the same keychain, and I noticed there's this woman next to me. I was like, oh, are these your keys? And she's like, oh, thank you. And I was like, I have the same ones. She turned bright red and immediately, like, walked out. I was like, wait, what the fuck?
Oh. Wild.
The other thing I just got to ask really quick. So usually when people are like, oh, you got to watch this, people are like, yeah, shut up, I don't care, or whatever. You actually have a list that you took from a friend, and you're like, I'm going to work my way down this. So when people make recommendations, you take it pretty seriously?
Oh, well, it's like a poster thing. Like she gave me as a gift. It's like a scratch off. It's like one of those like 50 states, scratch it off when you go to the state sort of thing.
Oh.
But it's a horror movie.
Yeah, with the movies. Like there's one like 100 movies you have to see. There's horror movies.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of those out. Like that's so cool that they have that for horror movies.
Okay, I thought your friend was like, I have a list that I've made on my phone. I'll send it to you. And you're like working your way down. I was like, you must really appreciate that friend's opinions.
Honestly, I would take her opinion on horror movies like that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's like a top 100 list, or is it like how many are on that scratch off thing?
I have to check. I think it's just 50. Maybe it is 100.
Damn, this made top 50.
It's a lot.
I like it.
I'm gonna go check. It's literally in the next room.
Yeah, this movie really is so bizarre. So I'm glad it made it onto a list like that because I don't know. I don't feel like this is like in the wheelhouse of most horror films.
Well, I'll wait for Corinne to get back.
Okay, yeah, it is 100. There are 100 movies on this list. But still, to make the top 100 movies and be on this list is something for such a tiny budget movie.
That and that it's in the Museum of Modern Art.
It is.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the not few films, but like of every film that's ever been made, it's one of the selections that they've preserved.
And they restored it too. They like took it from that 16 millimeter and they actually did a 4K restoration of it, which is crazy.
Someone on that board that like allows that must have been like, no, we're doing this movie. It's like, really, you have to do Basket Case.
Yeah.
Like, who do you know?
Yeah, it's a Criterion Collection film as well.
Is it?
It is.
Oh, I just bought a bunch of them during that sale last month. Maybe I should have picked this one up too, because there were really good deals on the Criterion sale last month.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like, why the Museum of Modern Art? And I was like watching, I was like, well, it's kind of like a time capsule. It perfectly encapsulates New York in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Right?
It definitely it captures the essence of the late 70s, early 80s, and like Times Square and all like the porno houses, and it was great. Yeah, I enjoyed this movie actually quite a bit. But Eric, you liked it too, right?
I liked it a lot. I'm really happy I watched it. It is very unsettling at times, like very unsettling.
Yeah,
especially the ending.
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff nightmares made out of. But another thing with the Museum of Modern Art is also the technology in this film as well, is probably why it was preserved. Like he shows like the old TV with the dials and stuff like that. So I mean, that's just how it was back then.
That's a good point. That might be why they were interested in doing that. I mean, obviously there probably was a fan of it on the board, but also like, yeah, it is like a really good time capsule.
Showing like Liberty Island too, with the Statue of Liberty. Like there's not a ton of films I can think of where they show Liberty Island. There's a sequel to a big movie with, I think his name's Bill Murray, where they do that. But
well, the World Trade Center too. Sorry.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, the scenes shot at the Statue of Liberty were shot completely without a permit. They just showed up, and they knew they'd be asked to leave, but they were like, this scene is so short that we'll get the footage. And they did.
No doubt. I had that feeling too, because she just like is running down the hill from the statue, and then like they go like, go, come on, just go over here.
I heard the same thing about when he's naked at the end in the dream. I heard that they literally just found a street where there was nobody, and he just ran naked down the road.
Yep. A lot of these were really just shot guerrilla style. And I think that kind of makes this film a little bit special. And also the inventiveness they used to bring Belial to life through like power of suggestion, a shaking basket, some sounds, some like stop motion animation or claymation, and all of this like puppetry stuff. They've got like a lot of practical effects that are happening.
Oh yeah, I thought the stop motion was like very impressive for the times, and the screams too on Belial, like that made me unsettled, Eric. Where you were talking about earlier. His face sometimes too. But Corinne, just for anybody that hasn't seen this movie, do you want to give a little bit of just a brief overview of like what the film is?
Oh gosh, just a quick summary. There's a guy who's living in this really terrible, rundown hotel transit kind of establishment. And he's there with his brother living in a box. He doesn't address him sort of like a very famous movie about a shark where you don't address the thing in the box for like half of the movie, but it's clearly there and clearly bothering him. And there's this weird connection between him and this thing in the box. He speaks to the box, but the box doesn't seem to speak back. It just kind of shakes at him. But he's trying to live his life. He's trying to move on from whatever has been plaguing him. It turns out that what has been plaguing him was that he used to be connected to this thing in the box. They were conjoined at birth. This is his brother. And this character, Dwayne, has his brother in this box as Dwayne is trying to live his own life. Then his brother is very upset by pretty much anything he does and kills a couple people along the way. And eventually Dwayne tries to get a girlfriend, and the brother in the box, Belial, is very upset about this, and it doesn't end up well for her.
Yeah, the movie's really well like structured, because they could have kind of started it where it's like you already know about Belial, you already know about his aunt, but it really starts off where it's just a guy in New York City, and you're like, oh, like this is his like Pokemon adventure, like he's going off into the world on his own, and he's got his basket, he's got some money, like, and he goes to New York City, like the biggest city in the world, blah blah blah. But there's so much more going on, and we slowly learn, like we think he's crazy when he's just like in bed, like holding his head, talking to nobody. We don't know what's going on, but we slowly learn, it's a psychic connection with his conjoined fetus brother that's in a basket. It's crazy.
There's also really just great developed side characters. The actors are all making very specific choices. And I think that's something that made it a lot of fun. Like some line deliveries are just really so bad or iconic in their own way. And there's also Casey, the woman with the like really strong eyeliner with the smiley faces all over her apartment.
Oh, yeah.
She was played by Beverly Bonner, who the director found working on a stage show in Manhattan with the drag queen Divine, who did a ton of stuff with John Waters. So I think that connection just like very present in the film, where like she was definitely down for like dirty, grimy kind of comedy within like something disgusting like horror.
And it also, I noticed too, because there was a part like where you're like, oh, she's gonna get naked, and it like she perfectly walks out of frame too, so you're just like, oh, she's like really towing the line, because I don't think she ever does get naked.
I don't think so.
No, but she's just about to take her shirt off, and then she walks out, and you're just like, oh, okay. So the character, you would assume we would see her naked, but then we don't, just because of what, I don't know. It was just, the movie's just weird, but it's interesting, but I really enjoyed it.
You save all the nudity for the end.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. You get Dwayne walking around just New York City around. I would assume they shot that at like 4 a.m. before everyone got going. And then Sharon, when Belial rapes her pretty much, right? Like that's what happened. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, apparently during the shooting of her death scene, some of the crew became offended and walked off of the production. Yeah. And I kind of don't blame them. Like rape by a amorphous blob is pretty offensive.
Yeah.
That was by far the most unsettling part of this. Like Belial screaming sticks with me a little bit, but like that, like when the blood and stuff and he's like popping off and I'm like, oh God, like ew.
Yeah, that was disgusting. When he breaks into the apartment and he just finds Belial on top of her and there's blood. Yeah, I was like, this is fucking disgusting.
But like Belial, he's a little horn dog, you know? He steals what's her name's underwear at one point too, remember?
Oh yeah.
So Belial's a little horny fella.
He is.
Well, he's such an interesting character because like you feel bad for him for most of the movie, like especially in the scene where he's thrown out in the trash. I'm like, yo, like I love Belial, but then by the end you're like, fuck you, Belial. So like it is a really interesting way that you can like be afraid of something at first, start to have compassion for it, then hate it by the end.
Yeah. And I do think that there is something to the scene where there is a sexual jealousy between the brothers where, like, obviously Dwayne has all of everything. He's a normal looking person for the most part, aside from his little scar. But on the other side of it, Belial is a blob, you know? He is driven by his inability to live outside of his box. And the scene in general, I kind of feels like a little FU to other rape scenes because it's kind of like, oh, you want to watch this kind of sexual violence? Well, we're going to give you this amorphous blob and enjoy that, bitch. Like,
oof.
Yeah. You know,
I might have been like slowly falling asleep at this point too, because I was starting to doze watching this movie a little bit. At the end, I was just watching it way too late at night. But was the intention of that scene of like the POV of, was that supposed to be Dwayne, and then you realize no, it's not Dwayne, it's Belial.
It was his dream,
and they're having like not telekinesis. What's that when you like telepathic kind of connection, right?
Yeah, whatever their psychic connection, whatever you want to call
psychic
it.
Connection. Yeah. And they did that before too, and like he was like kissing Sharon, I think at the Statue of Liberty or something, and Belial just like starts like freaking out and like ruins the room, and he's like, all right, Belial, stop being a cock block, like you don't have to be like that. But he does. He makes him like leave the date.
Yeah, there's something sexual between the jealousy of brothers that like Belial even grabs him by the dick at the end of the movie, basically.
Right, I caught that. Yeah, I was like, whoa, it's very unsettling.
Yeah.
And I mean, that scene when after he kills Sharon and he grabs Belial, I was like, she was a good one. Like, what's wrong with you? That's the first girl I've ever kissed. Is this how it's always going to be? And he's like freaking out.
Also, that scene where that same scene, he just throws a sheet over this girl and throws her out of the room.
That was so weird.
Yeah, that was so
like, get out of here! And he wraps her up. What was with that? Speaking of the side characters you were talking about earlier, the hotel manager is crazy. I thought he was hilarious, but just kick that guy out. Like, kick Dwayne out. It's been constant bullshit with him.
Yeah, things have gotten weird since he showed up, so it's like, hey, hit the road, Jack.
Yeah, it's been like 3 murders.
since they made this film thinking no one was ever going to watch it, and they were horrified when it became a success, they were actively like experimenting with tone from scene to scene. They were like, if it's not going to be scary, it might as well be funny, or it might as well be shocking. So they really kind of did that on purpose, which made a really interesting and something that you hadn't really seen before in cinema.
How much did this movie make? I couldn't find that anywhere. I didn't really dig too deep, but I know the budget was $35,000. Did it make a lot of money?
I mean, probably over the years, probably. Right?
It became a cult classic.
Yeah. I mean, they made a second and third one, which I have watched and honestly are a lot of fun. In the second one, Belial finds love. In the third one, Belial has babies.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's some they have their own little Basketcase world over there, but they're really well loved in the horror community. And the lady who played Casey, she's done like 30 years after the movie, like little events where she'll go and talk about the character and how much she loved playing the character and how she had a great time and stuff. Like, they're definitely on that circuit.
I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, I also heard that this took a year to film, and they would basically just save up enough money to film a couple scenes or buy enough film. Then they, take a couple weeks, save up some more money, film some more. So this was like really just guerrilla filmmaking at its finest in the early 80s or late 70s, early 80s. So very, very cool. Very original.
Yeah, they were kind of wild. Like, they would go dumpster diving for furniture. They couldn't afford a camera dolly, so they used a wheelchair for tracking shots.
Wow.
And just like wheeled the camera around. They have points where like the director was in the dresser doing the puppetry himself. Eventually the puppet like shrunk because of the heat or something, and so they used like somebody's daughter to use the puppet hands.
Oh my God.
And they kept using like their friends' houses for stuff. And the director once said anytime you hear a woman walking, that was him in high heels, because they had to like loop all of the sounds later on.
Yeah, there's some dub lines you can definitely tell.
Oh yeah.
But they did what they had to do because it was so low budget. But I don't know. I think it was very impressive.
I want to know how they got the Belial screams. It's just like 4 different people screaming at once or something.
Yeah, it was so like jarringly loud too. So it freaked me out. And the death scenes were surprisingly good too. I mean, the way that his like hands would cut through people's faces and stuff, and like he would kill them for a while too. Like it would be like 2 minutes of them just screaming and him just like continuously pulling at their jaw or scratching their face or whatever. So pretty good. Especially the woman, Dr. Cutter or whatever, she got like all those things in her face. I mean, the scream was a little much. I think they should have just found her dead, but they did pretty good. I got to give them credit. I don't know.
She looked like Pinhead in that scene. That was something else.
Yeah. The makeup artistry on this film was pretty crazy. And I think that is kind of part of their adjacency to the drag community, because there wasn't a lot of like makeup artistry like this in middle of New York outside of there.
Well, speaking of the makeup, the person who made Belial, do you know what he went on to do?
Oh, I don't know.
I wish I could guess.
You're gonna freak out, I think, Eric.
I'm gonna guess. Can I guess?
Yeah.
That guy whose like job was like palace guy?
No.
It's a guess, because he kind of looked like Belial in my mind.
Well, it was like 82 was it when this came out.
Right.
So this was his first project, was working on Basketcase. He made Belial, and then in 2008 he went on to do the costume and all of the makeup for the Joker.
Holy shit, that's no joke.
Isn't that crazy? He started here and then he got there. Like, I don't know, I thought that was pretty amazing.
I'm not surprised, dude. I'm very impressed by Belial and all the makeup and all the $35,000 budget, which I imagine the special effect budget was maybe $6,000, $7,000.
I don't even know, but yeah, just to see what because it's not like all the money went to Belial, so it's like for him to be able to make that with such little stuff, and then the stop motion really helps, and I don't know, the puppetry and everything like that. There was a lot of stuff that went into it, but I don't know, I found that really fascinating that guy's career can go from this to that.
That's a jump.
I love it though.
I wish that would happen with my career, where I could like go from my job to the next, like, oh, you landed the CEO of this company. That'd be great.
Well, hey, you're so young, Eric. There's time.
I'm so young. Yeah, that's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
Did anyone think that Dwayne looked like Tim Curry at all?
No.
Oh, I could see it.
I saw like a young Tim Curry. I also saw Sharon. I could not stop thinking this. She looks like Heidi Gardner. I don't know if you know who that one is.
Of course.
Looks exactly like her.
You think
could
so?
be your mom. Oh, yeah, I thought so.
Maybe. I saw like more like Barbra Streisand kind of.
Maybe, yeah, I see that too.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
Another thing I was thinking about watching this was like, Belial's cholesterol's got to be pretty bad. He's eating a lot of shitty
hot
food.
dogs, hamburgers.
12 hot dogs at once. It's like, that's not... Don't want to be doing that, Belial, at your size and your weight.
One of the scenes that I kind of caught a continuity error was, you know, when he's out on the date or whatever, and Belial's freaking out upstairs, and everyone's like, I'm trying to get some sleep. Everyone's freaking out or whatever. They're acting like it's nighttime. Everybody was acting like, oh, you gotta get bed. I got work in the morning or whatever. And I was just like, wait. It's daytime right now. Because I kept cutting back to Dwayne on the date. But anyways, sorry, I know that was random change.
No, that's a good point.
But here's my biggest thing. So the whole point of the movie really is that Dwayne and Belial, they're like, all right, our aunt's dead. We killed our dad. And we're going to New York City. But we're not just going to New York City to just start our adventure. We're going to go kill Dr. Needleman and Dr. Cutter, the people that did this to us. So why the hell would Dwayne be like, all right, while we're doing this, I'm also going to start dating this receptionist that also works with the guy? Like, why would you ever do that?
They kind of answered that where he's like, I've never dated a girl. I don't know. Or did he say something like that?
Wait 2 more weeks.
Yeah, you think.
Just kill these people and then be like, all right, we got away with it. It's the 80s. No one's going to catch us. There's not even ATMs yet. We're fine. Let's go like to Philadelphia or something next.
That's what he should have told Sharon in the doctor's office. Like, hey, I'm actually going away for 2 weeks. Wink, wink. I'll call you when I get back. How's that sound? And I promise I'll call you. Yeah. He should have done that. But instead, he's like, yeah, let's go on the date right before I kill this guy tonight.
Yeah, but he's getting too close to her because, like, she's a suspect. Not a suspect, but she gets interviewed by the police. And it's like, oh, I was on a date with this guy. And it's like, wait, the same guy that was in that fucking creepy hotel we were in the other day? And, like, they start connecting dots. It's like, Dwayne, I know you were raised basically in captivity, but you gotta be smarter than this. Yeah,
but that is the whole point of the movie, is they're going on like a brother revenge killing spree for separating them. But also, dude, the way Belial was like just tossed out back in a garbage bag.
Yeah.
That's so dirty, dude.
He was also named after a demon. Like, his father did not want to accept this thing as his son.
Oh, I didn't know Belial's a demon name.
I didn't know that either.
I mean, it definitely sounds like one.
Oh, I didn't know if it was like a real thing. You're like, yeah, actually, it's from the 5th layer of hell. You like tell us some story about it.
I don't know. I've heard it's a demon, but I don't know the details of Belial the demon. But it's not a I love this child kind of name.
Right. No, yeah, but I've never even heard of that name before. So there is one movie which, you know, because of the SAG strike, I'm not going to mention the title of it. You'll just have to figure it out. It came out very recently, and it's directed by James Wan. And it's similar to this. I don't know if you guys know the movie I'm talking about. Starts with an M. Anyways, so it's like a direct ripoff of this. And I never, until I saw this movie, I was like, oh, I thought that was really original. And then seeing this movie, I was like, wow, this movie directly inspired that movie. Conjoined twins, like psychic abilities, murder. It's obviously a higher budget, much more like, you know, there's more suspense. It's different, but I don't know. They really pulled a lot from the plot of this movie. Do you know which one I'm talking about, Corinne?
I don't, but your description of it made me think there's a Stephen King novel that's actually kind of similar, where it's called The Dark Half, and it's about a writer who had it wasn't even a full, like, they did an operation because they thought he had like a brain tumor, and it turned out to be like some teeth and an eyeball and stuff like that in his brain. And that was like supposed to be his twin, but like he absorbed it. But then the twin starts acting out within him and like becomes its own entity. So there's like some weird twin media that exists, that there's something about like twins and like them being conjoined or absorbed that we're interested in, because we don't really get how we're even here in the first place. So like how can there be 2 of somebody? What's going on there?
Yeah, I'd like to believe Basketcase inspired all of these. That Stephen King.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, nobody's gonna know about this movie, and he just like copies it. But I want to ask you, actually, speaking on that point, I want to ask both of you: Eric, we'll start with you. Do you think twins have psychic abilities? Do you think they can talk to each other?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I think it's possible.
Okay.
I think it's possible.
Corinne?
Actually, so there's one case of conjoined twins where they can speak to each other without, like, because they share brain tissue, and I guess they can see through each other's eyes and stuff like that. So there is that. I also found out this year on my 30th birthday, my uncle took me out for lunch, and like halfway through conversation, he's like, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and you know you were going to be a twin, right? And I was like, nope. No one ever told me that.
What?
Apparently I was supposed to be a twin, and the other one just, like died next to me and was dead
Holy
there
shit.
for a minute. And then they like figured that out and like got rid of the other one. But
Whoa.
I was supposed to be a twin, and I definitely felt like I was supposed to be a twin. And I don't know how it was like I knew it, but I didn't know it. And so I feel like there's something there where I felt
you
like
are tripping me out right now, and you like this movie before you knew that. It's like, okay.
Oh my God. And the Olsen twins loved the Olsen twins.
Oh,
I love the twin content.
That doesn't count. We all love the Olsen twins. No, that's you just blew my mind. That's an insane story.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No, it was really wild to like be like, wait, Mom, Dad, you never told me this. How did this never come up? They were like, yeah, I forgot.
And they told you when you were 30?
I literally, on my 30th birthday, I found out. I asked my dad about it, and he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I asked my mom about it, and she was like, oh, yeah, that happened. And I went back to Dad, and I was like, you forgot? Like, what are you talking about?
You forgot. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I'd love to know what they would have been like, but it's just me out here.
No, but that is, I don't know. I've always wondered. My dad's a twin, and he's never told me anything, but that's what they would tell you. If they could do it, they wouldn't be honest with you. So
I hope no one's keeping anything from me for my 35th birthday. Like, imagine they tell you something like, oh, by the way, Eric, you're actually like 40 years old. We kept you back for like 5 years. It's like, really?
You did hit puberty pretty young.
I did hit, yeah. I was a large kid by the time I hit 6th grade. Valente always tells me, it's like, one summer you just came back, and it was like, who is this guy?
Who's this like 45-year-old guy? Yeah, that's funny. But getting into the ending a bit, ending's pretty crazy. Obviously, we already kind of talked about the scene with what Belial does, but he goes back to the hotel, right? Belial Dwayne goes and gets him and brings him back to the hotel, and
and he's screaming at him like a maniac.
Right, and then the whole hotel is like, all right, Jesus Christ, let's get this fucking guy out of here. So they get in like a fight. Belial grabs Dwayne's balls, carries him up. So that's how strong Belial is. I think for a little bit of context here, he can lift, and Dwayne looks pretty tall, so he's lifting him up by his balls. And then they end up smashing out of the window and catching on to the sign of the hotel. So you're sitting there, and like, I thought they were going to be okay. I was like, okay, they're definitely going to get saved. That's why they're building this tension of like Belial holding on to Dwayne and the thing at the same time.
Well, while Belial's holding on to him, he's killing him because he can't really hold someone like a normal person. So he's holding him by the throat, because that's also what he has a grip of, and he's literally like strangling him.
Yeah,
he's hanging him by his hand. It was like I said, very unsettling.
Yeah, he's choking him to death as he's holding. So it's like, is he trying to save him or is he trying to kill him?
I think he's trying to save him, but he doesn't. It's kind of like Lenny from Mice and Men. Like, he just doesn't really have control of his own strength.
Yeah, we do find out they do survive this when the sequel comes out, but it doesn't look like they do, and they certainly don't move very much when they're down at the end. But
yeah, I mean, it's kind of what you were saying earlier, where it's like, they didn't expect anybody to see this, and it's like the ending feels pretty conclusive. Like, their skulls are crashed on the ground, and there's blood like in a pool. So you're like, oh, they're definitely dead. And the guy's like, he takes his pulse and goes, no. So it's like, how do they come back from that? Both of them too.
Yeah.
They take Belial's pulse. I mean?
No, they take Dwayne's pulse, and he looks up at the hotel manager, right? And he like shakes his head. He's like, they're dead. But then there's a sequel.
Yeah, you're right. Like, I thought I left this movie like, yeah, they're dead.
No,
I do find it interesting. Like, Belial is able to live on his own. He's able to survive this. Like, he has superhuman strength. He's definitely got that whole anti-hero thing going on. But why are they so mad at this doctor who, like, let them both survive this, like, very dangerous surgery? Like, they're that mad that they got separated, but they seem to want to live separately.
I think they're mad because they threw Belial in the trash bag and let him die. And
well, that was the dad. That was not necessarily the surgeons, was it?
They didn't stop him. They didn't stop him.
I think they're very involved in, like, hey, the other one's not going to survive.
Yeah, like, they didn't care. Yeah, they were all, like, totally on board to be like, you know, Belial's probably going to die, and everyone's like, okay, and then he didn't, and they're like, well, throw him in the fucking trash. So they're like, fuck these guys. I totally, I sided with
Dwayne's like, this is my brother. Like, I love Dwayne. I love Belial.
And Dwayne's also raised by himself, too, so he feels like an outcast, and Belial's all he's got, too. So you kill Belial, and, like, Dwayne's like, no, this is my brother. Like, I'm definitely going to go kill those people. I totally get it.
It's a cool idea.
If you were stuck on me, Eric, I would do that for you.
Yeah. I'd cockblock the hell out of you.
Is Belial worth saving?
I think so.
But he's murderous and nasty.
Well, now we know that. So maybe I'd say before the murderous rampage, maybe not. But then again, they totally were on board with it. They're like on the train, like, we're gonna kill people, like coming from down, from upstate, like knowing very well. They must have like worked at Dairy Queen, saved up money, and then came down here and fucking did what they did.
I mean, I think having a Belial in college must be really sick. Like, aside from the cockblock stuff, you could be like, yo, Belial, do the hot dog trick. And he just like polishes off a bag of hot dogs. It's like, dude, how many hot dogs can he eat? It's like, probably around 50, man. It's like, no way, Belial. Yeah, I honestly went into this movie. I'm like, what's Basketcase? Like, when I think of the word Basketcase, like, that means like someone who's like crazy, right?
Yeah, or Green Day song, whatever.
Well, Dwayne goes through his own kind of crazy moments here. Like, he's definitely making other people around him unsettled, and there's definitely some stuff going on with Dwayne that appears in Basketcase 2 and 3. Should I spoil Basketcase 2 and 3?
No, don't.
Okay.
We should keep doing this trilogy. We should finish it off.
Okay. Yeah. So Dwayne has more mental health issues in the oncoming films that I think make it clear that, like, there's something going on with him too, for sure.
I mean, there has to be. Look at his life. Look at like the way they were raised. The mother was dead. The father hated them. The aunt was the only one that showed them any love. Like, they were raised in he said like the whole family hated them, and they were like the outcasts or whatever. So I think that'd be pretty messed up.
Corinne, do you know if they got the same guy to play Dwayne in the second one?
They do. He plays Dwayne in all 3 movies.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Did they get the same Belial?
Belial does have a little bit of a glow up. They have like a stronger budget or like more talented artists, or I think they also they filmed the second one like 8 years after the first one, so maybe it was the same artists and they just had improved their own skills. But Belial is a little bit less like unformed and has a little bit more structure to him. He's got like lighting up eyes, he breathes and stuff. So he's got a little bit of a better look in the second and third one. But they also have a entire home of show-stealing freaks that are introduced in the second movie that are just like Belial, and Dwayne argues whether they are or are not like himself.
Well, I'm reading right now. They got James Corden to play Belial in the third one.
Oh my god. Jeez. Well, we should definitely continue doing the series though, because I actually really like this movie. So if you're down, Corinne, we'll add it to another wheel in the near future. Yeah,
totally. The second and third one, they definitely take a little bit of a tone shift. I feel like it goes stronger into comedy, but there's some gruesome kills and some pretty wild scenes to respond to.
Yeah, real quick, stat-wise, this one, the first one, 1982. The sequel came out in 1990, so almost 10 years later. And then the third one came out in 1992, so just like a small gap between 2 and 3.
Love it. Well, I guess you guys have any last-minute thoughts on Basketcase here?
Wish I had a brother.
You can have one of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that this was just put together by people who really wanted to do this. They wanted to make their little horror movie and they loved what they were doing. They danced like no one was watching and making this movie. And I think that they made something that was really enjoyable, even if it wasn't technically great.
Very of the time, too. I really appreciated that. And yeah, you could feel it. It was so low budget. Obviously, the acting was terrible. It was just whatever. It didn't matter. It still worked. So
it's in a museum of modern art
for a reason.
Like imagine like that's like that scene in a movie where someone gets into Harvard that like didn't study. Like, that's what that's like.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Corinne, thank you so much for jumping on this episode and introducing us to the Basketcase franchise.
Oh, you're in for such a treat. And thank you for having me.
Phenomenal choice. Love this movie.
Well, Eric, what do you say you spin the wheel?
Oh, shit. I am not prepared to spin the wheel. Sorry.
All right.
All right. Spinning. Another topic. Best PG-13 horror movies.
Awesome. So we have Wilbur Harjo coming back for that topic episode. So we're gonna start doing a few more of those. Obviously, with the strike going on, it's easier to not cover films, but to have discussions. So anyways, so we'll see you guys all next week with the best PG-13 horror films.